Today we're going to have a discussion about genuine desire and the nature of female desire. Take your finger and hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and hit the link in the description so you can get on my email list for content that I can't provide here on YouTube and any announcements or anything like that. Now, let's get into genuine desire. So the catalyst for this is because it occurred to me from discussions and some things from my Green Flag series. You guys that watch me or that pay attention to some of my stuff or pay attention to things from people I work with don't actually understand how female desire works. You think you do because you've read maybe the Rational Male series once or twice, which is good. I recommend that, okay? You may have listened or digested some content and you think you understand it, but it is just clear to me that you don't. You're not out practicing it. You're not getting laid. You're not getting girls. And when you do get girls, it's not really at a level where you can actually understand what desire is. And what made me think that is a lot of guys were confusing whether or not she has sex with you with desire. Women have sex with guys all the time that they don't desire all that much. I'll get into that a little bit later in the video. In fact, arguably half or more of their sexual partners were opportunities or situations, and they didn't have what I would call genuine burning desire for those guys where it was at a peak level. But it was more opportunities, transactional sex, situations, I'm drunk, I'm lonely. Okay, just because she opens her legs for him, that doesn't mean he's this alpha that she just really could not help herself and had to sleep with him. That genuine burning desire I'm talking about. But it makes sense because most guys don't experience that in their whole life. All right, so you pay attention to the things I tell you, and when I put out a product or I endorse something, or if I'm going to speak at something, we're going to, do some courses later on this year, next year, get a part of that so that you can have genuine desire from women that you are seeing, dating, or in relationships with. That's what you want. That's ultimately what a man wants. Otherwise, you would just be buying hookers and then you wouldn't care about any of this stuff and you wouldn't need to listen to me. Okay, so let's get into genuine desire. There are 5 categories of desires and needs a woman is looking for when she is making mating decisions on a man. These 5 categories were discovered or observed by a counselor in the 80s, and I still cannot remember her name. I took the notes and I deduced and matched it with a lot of other things I knew and understood from EvoPsych, and I did not write down the source. So I need to get with some of my people in the counseling area, the family counseling. They might know who she is. Regardless, it's not like she had understanding of evolutionary psychology. She's not some red pill person, but she had seen couple after couple, and she had asked the question, what are the things that she's looking to get solved for her? What are her desires and needs? And it makes sense. It vets out with what we understand with hypergamy. The 5 categories are sexual desires. She wants to have her sexual desires met. She wants to have her emotional desires and needs met. She wants to have her security needs met. And security encompasses both resources and protection, or physical protection. She wants to have her paternity needs met. In other words, is this guy potentially a good dad? And she wants to have her legacy needs met, which means, is he loyal and does he have values, and is he going to build a life, or is he going to discard her when she hits the wall or when she's older for a younger model? What's confusing to women, though, is they don't understand this. These are instinctual drives. This is on an instinctual level, the things they're driven towards. And they try to make decisions pragmatically based on these 5 needs, but since there's 5 of them, and most women are not aware of these needs, or if they are, it's on just a very rudimentary level, it's usually 1 or 2 of these needs that sit in the forefront and that cause them to make a mating decision when the rest of them more or less sit in the back burner. So what you end up happening is, for example, younger girls who are not interested in marriage yet, they're basically out to have a good time. They're looking to have their sexual desires met. They do want some emotional desires met too, but when it's say emotional desires, that's more being with a dominant alpha guy and feeling that draw towards him and that comfort because has that alpha presence. She's looking for that good time, which is both sex and emotion. She's not looking for a provider necessarily when she sleeps with a guy at the frat party, or she's not vetting this guy out for, is he going to be a good dad? Now, it's instinctual, so she sees a guy with a puppy, she's going to go, aw, that's so cute, and have that kind of those feelings or those little tingly feelings, just like every other woman, but those are more on the back burner when she makes sexual decisions. In the forefront when she's younger and going through her party years, she is looking for sex and she's looking for a good time, which falls in line with the first two things I mentioned, sex and emotion, but it's not, the others sit in the back burner. Then we can look at, for example, let's say when she's in her late 20s, early 30s, when she's realizing that she needs to do something different with her life, or she's going to be alone when she's older, she won't be able to have kids, all those sorts of things. What happens? The needs that come into the forefront switch around. She's looking at security and paternity needs now. And so she's looking at a guy who can be a good provider and a good dad. Those are what she's using to vet. And she may not choose to sleep with the alpha Chad that's just a good time, unless it's a one-off and she can get away with it when she's trying to vet for a long-term mate. She might try to protect herself from going out with that guy and might sleep transactionally with a guy who's less attractive but would be a good person, good dad, has a good job, all those things. Let's fast forward. Let's say she's in her mid to late 30s or even her early 40s. If she's been divorced or whatever, she's single at that point. What's she looking for? She's looking for somebody who she can grow old with. She's already maybe had her children or she's past that stage. And so she's looking for legacy needs. She's looking for a guy who will be comfortable with her and she can have that comfort with, and she's not going to get dumped or discarded by that guy because she's an older woman. And so when we break down these 5 categories, they make sense along in how she makes mating decisions, and it makes sense with hypergamy. What we need to realize, though, is just because one or two of these things are in the forefront of their mind, that doesn't mean that hypergamy is not in effect, or that hypergamy only affects the one or two things that are in the forefront. So if she is going to have long-term success or happiness in any sort of relationship, she is going where she doesn't discard this guy, she needs to have all 5 of these categories met. And she needs to have them met better than they've ever been met before by anybody else. If she had a guy that was more, this is a common scenario, a guy that she had a lot more sexual desire for when she was younger, but she really loves this nice guy and he is a good job and he's a good dad and he's loyal, you see, security, paternity, and legacy needs, she won't be happy with that guy. That guy may fulfill all of what we would call the beta needs, the security, paternity, and legacy needs, but he doesn't fulfill the sexual drive and desires for her. And then this leads to why women then cheat. And they've redone the statistics on cheating. The idea that only 20% of women cheat was 20 years old. When we redo the statistics now, just like I've said in previous videos, when we talk about notch count and the level of hedonism we are out in society now, women cheat 50% of the time. We're not going to do this video on cheating, but just so you understand, and reasons why, because those sexual needs are not being met. That's at least one of the main reasons why. Or maybe the emotional ones aren't being met because the guy is not alpha enough and she doesn't feel completely drawn to him. And then you also have those situations where she's getting the sexual desires met, but the guy's maybe just doesn't want kids and she has to leave him. So these things all sort of happen. And we could also look at, too, to mention, if she might not want kids either, but she needs to know that if he were to be a dad, that he would be the best dad that she could get with. Okay, because these are primal things. These are not logical things. She'll in her mind go over things logically that could fit in these categories, like, well, does he make a good living? Is he a nice guy? Does he look hot? These things can fit in these categories, of course, but that they don't think along these 5 categories where, oh, are my sexual desires being met? How about my security needs? That's not how they think, but this is what's going on in their primal decision making. All right. These are her primal decisions. If you're talking LTR, long-term success, she won't be happy. She'll break up that relationship or get dull or get unsatisfied or destroy it if all 5 of these are not being met. And even with all 5 of these are met, that he's her best in all 5 of these categories, he still needs to maintain the relationship through game, we'll call it LTR, relationship game, and through courting her and being his best and keeping his SMV up and all of those things. I mean, a man has to do everything because she wants everything. That's okay. That's just the way it is. I don't blame them. Honestly, they should want a lot for themselves. Of course, my only criticism with women is they want everything, but many women aren't willing to work to have everything. And that's where the entitlement happens. That's where I get critical on a lot of women today. But they should want and desire the best, and that's what they want. And that means you have to show up and be that. But these are the 5 categories that they're using to vet this stuff out. Now, let's focus in on the sexual category. Hypergamy is she has to think you are the best she can do in all 5 of these categories, and that means you have to be the best she's ever done in all 5 of these categories. Women are solipsistic, so if she experienced a better sexual experience prior to you, and then she settles with you because, she just loves you because you meet all these other needs, well, she knows from her own personal experience and through her own emotions, which is what she is going by first always, right? In her own primal instincts, which is what we're being satisfied by that sexual experience. She knows at that level that there's better out there and she's had it before, which means she will never be that excited about you. You have to understand women cannot go backwards. It's part of hypergamy. They cannot go backwards in all 5 of those categories. Now, you may have, a lot of times what they'll do, though, is they will commit to you or be with you or work on a relationship with you because they think you can be the best. So they're doing it based on hope. So let's say you're not the best for them sexually, but they feel like you could be if you guys got more connected sexually, you got a little bit better at sex, you had some different, interesting, or more sexual experiences, but she believes that you're capable of being her best, but you didn't quite reach that pinnacle that she maybe reached with another ex. And that's fine. That happens all the time. Guys are with a woman and the first couple times they sleep together isn't necessarily going to be better than, let's say, the ex they were with for a couple years, and they had her and the ex had an opportunity to do and experience a lot of stuff together sexually, right? So that is okay as a start, but you have to eventually meet the standard of being her best in these 5 categories, or she will not be happy with you. Now, I'm not telling you this stuff so you can qualify to a woman and I'm really going to make sure that I can make her happy. It's not about that. All right, this is about making you happy. If you get in an LTR or long-term relationship or even for plate spinning and just dating and having good experiences, but if you settle, though, with somebody who you're not her sexual best or you're not who she sees as her best in these categories, she's just not going to be that into you. She's going to be quick to leave. If there's any cheating that she is propensity to do, she's at risk to cheat. She's going to get naggy. She's going to get bitchy. She's going to get resentful that you don't supply her needs in these 5 categories. And in our very narcissistic society and hedonistic society, gynocentric feminist culture says, well, he's not doing it for you. It's his fault. Go out and get those needs met. So here's what you have. You'll have a girl that is with a guy and doesn't tell him, right? Like just commits to him because she wants his resources and she wants all of those other categories he provides. But man, she's just not getting the sexual satisfaction that she was getting from 2 ex-boyfriends ago. Feminized, gynocentric culture says, that's his fault, girl. You need to go out and get some D from somebody who's better. You need to get your needs met because you're not getting them met. So they tell her to use this guy up and be a piece of trash and lie to him and make him think that she's happy when she's not and to go get it met someplace else. That's what society's telling these women to do. And so this is why you need to be aware of this stuff, not to try to like qualify to her or anything. It's not about that. You're putting this effort in to the relationship and to you. Here's the part about, now let's just say the sexual category. So a lot of guys have a misunderstanding thinking that the sexual category or any one of these categories are singular or binary in nature. In other words, you know what? If his D is not as big as someone else's D in her past, or if he's not as tall, or if he isn't as, muscular as someone in her past, then he's not her best sex. Well, it's not, it doesn't boil down to that. It doesn't boil down to who's taller, or who's more muscular, or who has a better looking face, or who has a bigger ding dong, or who has better smelling breath. We can go down the list, but you get what I'm saying. It's the totality of the sexual experience that matters. It's not any one singular thing. She may have been with people or had experiences with somebody who had something that was a singular thing that would be considered a better genetic marker. Let's say height. She's with a taller guy and you're just a shorter guy. Well, this is where the black pill guys, the nihilistic sides of these spaces are wrong. They want to say, well, I'm just not good looking enough, or I'm not tall enough. I'll never be her best. I might as well give up and buy a sex doll and hate all women. And that is absolutely absurd, because it is the totality of the experience and everything that makes up you that creates that sexual experience for her and makes it better or worse than things of her past and things that she could imagine having in the future. Now, let's look at the biological components though. So why am I focusing on sex here, right? We're talking about genuine desire. The reason I'm focusing on this is because that is the thing that you want to have first and foremost in the beginning, and that is what you want to develop right away, is sexual attraction and arousal. That is your vetting process, because out of all 5 of these categories, the one with the biological component that you can't fix or change up to a point is the sexual desire part. So part of the biological component is SMV, or sexual market value, things that we can quantify: symmetrical face, hip to or waist to shoulder ratio, muscularity, height. There's universal markers for attractiveness that make someone good looking or not good looking. Those things do matter, but they're not, again, this is not a singular component for sex. That's not the only thing that matters. There's plenty of women who will tell you they've been with guys who were average looking at best, who created the best sexual experiences they've ever had. And they were completely head over heels with that guy, even though they had been with better looking, taller, more genetically fit guys. We've established then that it's not just SMV. I'm not about to give you the illusion, though, that she could get a 8 out of 10 guy and you're going to be a 4 out of 10 guy, and then you're going to be able to be her best sexual experience. It's possible, but obviously this is the bigger the gap is for what she's able to get in men and what you actually are in your sexual market value in terms of just your looks, those genetic markers like height or whatever, the bigger the gap between what you can get and what you are, that's going to make it increasingly more difficult for you to create that experience for her. But again, not impossible, because there's other components here. Another component is a genetic fit. Not fitness, but how you genetically fit with her. they've done pheromone studies and figured that the pheromones can indicate antibodies that the person has to be able to fight disease. And her attraction to certain men, it's not just testosterone. They figured those hormones out too, which is something we can more or less quantify, but there's something that is harder. We don't know how to quantify yet. It has to do with the ability to fight disease. In other words, if she were to make a baby with this person, then it would be a stronger, more genetically viable baby that would be more protected from disease. This is why usually there's not an attraction to a sibling, because they're too genetically similar in terms of antibodies. So that baby would have more propensity to have disabilities, would have more propensity to not be able to fight disease off as well. So combining your genes with this other person to create a more viable kid, not just because of SMV, but because of fitness. In other words, ability to prevent disease, things like intelligence, things like avoiding disabilities or genetic problems. These are things that women seem to be able to sense. We don't know how yet, and we need to do more research, but they seem to be able to sense that through other cues other than how tall is he, how big is his D, how big are his biceps, you see. That's a component here, and a lot of women will tell you, if you deal, those of you guys, a lot of you guys don't talk with women very often, okay? But if you hang around women, talk to women, date women, bang women, you'll understand that they'll tell you a lot of times they go with someone who is not the tall, dark, and handsome. They just have a draw to some other guy who's a little bit lower in SMV on the surface, but they just have this arousal for this guy. And that has to do with being a good genetic fit for her. So you want to increase your SMV, but there's an element of, are you just a good match because of how you were made genetically and how they were made genetically? That adds to or takes away the arousal. You could do all the game in the world and have really high SMV and just not quite be the person that creates that maximum burning desire and arousal for her as you would with another female, because of that genetic fit or that biological match. And then there's also the experience in and of itself, the actual sexual experience, what you're able to create. It's not that SMV and that being that genetic match doesn't play a role in it, but this is where game and bedroom game and being actually good at sex and knowing how to create a good sexual experience for her matters a lot. Because there's a lot of women that will tell you that they've been with guys who had a lot less going for them genetically, but in the bedroom, they were blown away by that guy sexually, and then they were massively drawn to him, attracted to him, because they got an influx of those chemicals, those happy chemicals that you get from having a lot of orgasms and a very strong or impacting or imprinting sexual experience. So lucky for us as men, okay, that there's a lot that goes into what creates a good sexual experience for her and what's going to make or potentially make you her sexual best. So then the sexual category, what makes you her best, it's not just one thing. So you guys who get nihilistic and think, I'm too old for this girl, I'm divorced and I'm in my 50s and now I can't find a good chick, I'm not as attractive, I'm not as tall, whatever negative self-talk you want to give yourself, it's not that those things don't play a role, but it's only one thing. And there's a ton of stuff that play into it. And this is why game and bedroom game is so important. I say bedroom game, I'm talking about the sexual experience that you're creating for both her and yourself. Now, why again am I focusing on sex? The reason why is because there is this biological component with the sex and the sexual aspect of her desires and needs. So when she's vetting for a man in a hypergamous fashion, that sexual category has a biological component. The emotional desire or that draw, that has more to do with game and alpha behavior. there's some biological stuff. A biological alpha is going to have an easier time, but it's not necessarily a lost cause if a guy doesn't have that. If you don't have a biological match with a girl, either on SMV level, on being a good genetic or biological fit, with those pheromones and some of those other cues that you can't just visually look at, if you're not a good fit for her on a biological level, most likely you will not be able to create the best sexual experiences that she's ever had, and you will not, which means you will not satisfy those sexual desires in that category. Why does that matter? Because this means you could get emotionally invested with this person and decide to be in a relationship with her, not just dating or sex, and she absolutely loves you because you provide security, you're a good dad, you're providing legacy needs, you're loyal, and she might be getting good sex from you and enjoying herself sexually, but if you're not her best or if she thinks she can do better, she will get bored with you, and then the relationship will fall apart. And this could be because of a biological component of the sexual act or the sexual experiences that you can't fix. You can actually fix everything else. You can work on your SMV, be the best version of yourself, hit the gym, do combat sports, go make money, and you have all the security needs covered for any woman, okay? You could work on having a little compassion, understanding parenting. Being a good dad isn't that hard, right? I mean, it is actually, to raise a kid is hard, but to show those qualities of fatherhood isn't really hard. You could be a loyal person and have good values, and not just have integrity and not cheat on her, not discard her, those sorts of things, right? These are all things you could work on. You could work on your game and your alpha behavior so that she has that emotional draw and attraction to you. But sexual arousal, although there are a lot of things you can work on, there comes a point where the biological component makes or breaks it. So this is why, for burning desire, I always recommend guys lead sexually. When you're dating somebody, it's sex. When you're in a relationship with somebody, okay? Sex is that, as Rollo Tomasi likes to say, sex is that glue that holds the relationship together. It's not the only important thing, but it is a major component. It's the difference between having a good friendship with somebody or just having a live-in buddy or whatever it may be, and actually having a relationship. The sexual component and having those desires met is a core piece of this. There's the other 4 categories, but if you don't satisfy this thing and satisfy it better than anyone else ever has in her entire life, where she solipsistically thinks and sees that, I haven't experienced better, I don't even think there's better out there, I'm having such wonderful experiences with this person, I don't feel the need to look outward. That's what keeps it together in an LTR. But it's not just what keeps it together in an LTR, it also what creates better experiences when you're just dating people or plating them. They love being around you, they have high arousal for you, high attraction, and you just have a better time, better experiences. This is why you're not accepting friend zone. This is why you're not putting energy, giving women free attention and free energy without there being a sexual component to that. This is why you put your time and effort into women that are aroused by you and desire you, and then you build that desire up with the sexual tension and the sexual act. And if you don't do that, if you cannot build that sexual tension and that sexual desire in the beginning, you're hoping now that you're going to do this on the back end, and that's much more difficult, and it's much more of a chance of not being successful for even just having good dating experiences, let alone any kind of relationship. Now, I will give a caveat here. So some guys, because their SMV is just lower, and it's something that they can't do a lot about. They have a major thing that gets in the way of them being seen as the high SMV, sexually attractive guy right off the bat. It could be a physical problem. It could be just someone just really short or something, has just a height issue or a disability or something like that. They're not necessarily going to be able to lead like the Alpha Chad and create sexual experiences with her right away and create that sexual draw and attraction right away. They might have to use social circle game, be really cool and get more friendships and kind of platonic things going, and then move it into the sexual realm. They might have to do different things. I've had to coach guys like that, and I've coached them to be able to do things to get women to sleep with them. And it's not just about notch count or getting women to sleep with you, but it's about having sexual experiences, having a good time. And some people will have to do something a little bit different. That's a very small percentage. Don't get this negative mindset if you're a healthy person on the other end of this video right now and think that that's what you have to do, that you have to use beta game, or that you have to use some of these other strategies in order to get a woman there, okay? You don't, probably, all right? So most of you guys listening to me, we're talking like over 90% can use, we'll call it more of an alpha game strategy in order to get women to want to be with you, desire you, want to date you, and eventually, if you want relationships, be in a relationship with you, you're going to lead with sexual desire. So maximum burning desire, genuine burning desire, we are talking about sexual desire first, but those other things sort of need to be there, be satisfied, or at least have the potentiality of being satisfied. Or she just won't have quite the same draw to you. And understand too, I'm going to go back to this because I mentioned it in the beginning, women don't sleep with you because of maximum burning desire necessarily. And again, most of the time, or at least over half we could say, women did not have the knockout, drag out, crazy burning desire for the guys that they've chose to sleep with. A lot of times they were opportunities. For example, they're on vacation, they're drunk, they sleep with some guy that they just met. Because they're going for the experience or on that vacation. That guy's SMV could have been like a 6, all right, out of 10. And her desire for him was, maybe a 5 out of 10. So I want to go back to my video on sexual action threshold. So on vacation, she wants the experience of banging a guy on vacation and living her best life. So her sexual action threshold, she's a 4. She's going to sleep with a guy that gets her a little bit tingly, but it's not necessarily that guy has to get her. Just because she opens her legs for him, it doesn't mean she has crazy burning desire for him. And this was the disagreement with understanding one of my green flag videos. A lot of guys equated just sex with crazy, like maximum burning desire, and that's just not true. She might go on a date with you and you kind of game her and you pay for some stuff, and maybe she feels obligated or she hasn't slept with anybody for a while and her sexual action threshold is just lower that day. Maybe she's been lonely and she's really not that attracted to you, but she sleeps with you. She's like a 5 or 6. She wants to get laid. That's it. She wants to get laid that day. You happen to be there. You happen to have taken her out or met her for drinks or whatever. You had her come to your place, and so she has sex with you. But she is not pining for you. She's not having this crazy desire for you. Her desire for you may have been a 5 or a 6, and she just wanted to have sex that day, so her threshold was a 4, meaning if you exceeded 4 in desire, 4 out of 10, she was going to sleep with you. Okay? That's what happens a lot for females. Or how about they meet that guy who's a good beta provider material. He's a nice guy, great dad, whatever, socially seems kind of fun, maybe tells a few jokes, makes her laugh. Her sexual attraction to that guy her sexual desire for that guy might be pretty low, but he seems like a good dude, so she brings her action threshold down to, let's say, a 3, all right, because she sees him as a good provider, good person, okay, and so the guy only has to get her the tingles up to a 4 out of 10, and he's having sex with her. But she's not going to pine for that guy like some alpha guy that she is madly in love with, attracted to, that she has a maximum crazy sexual experience with. She won't pine for that guy in the same way. You get what I'm saying? Every time she opens her legs for somebody, it's not, and often not, because she has crazy burning desire for that guy. So what I'm suggesting here in this video is that you understand genuine burning desire now. This is a longer video, and hopefully now you have a better understanding of how it works For women, you have some ins and outs and nuances that you didn't know before. Because some of you guys run your mouth on forums and you don't know jack shit. And you're not getting laid, and it's very evident based on what you say and based on how you're showing up. So some of you guys need to shut your mouth, and you need to listen, and you need to learn more. That being said, this hopefully helps you. This hopefully gives you a lot of more information so you can go out and action things. Now, what I'm suggesting you action here is to get better at seduction, get better at game, get better at the act of sex, and that in the beginning, your only thing you should be doing with women is having a good time, creating great experiences, and having good sexual experiences. You are there to have fun and fulfill sexual desires for the both of you. That is the only thing that you are focused on in the beginning of any kind of plating, dating, whatever. I say that because she will fall in love with you, but it won't be the kind of love that she had for Alpha Chad, who banged her better than you, okay? And she will not want to let you go. Or she will have had a better guy before, who she perceives as better before, and you're what she can get now. And she knows it, so she has to settle with you. Guess what? It's not your fault that she spread them out for whoever she spread them out for in her past. It's not your responsibility to take her on and her problems on and then have her not want you, not have the desire for you. Because at the end of the day, if you're not the best for her and the best she's ever been with, she's settled and she will resent you for settling. That is just the way it is. That is the sad part about how female attraction and desire works. And if someone is settling for you, it should never go past just casual sleeping together and having fun. If it goes past that, you're in for a big problem for yourself. And so that's what you need to do. Protect yourself. Have fun with women. Enjoy them. But what you need to work on in the beginning is just the sexual component. That is where the genuine burning desire lies. If you are the best lay she's ever had and you create amazing experiences for her, so she has that emotional draw towards you for you being alpha, and she's getting the sexual desires not just met but exceeded because she's never experienced anything like you before and all that stuff. These are the things that you work on and get better at and you work on your SMV for. The rest of the things will work themselves out, and you can succeed in meeting those standards for her later if you're interested in going further with her besides just dating. But you're going to have a much better time with women who have genuine burning desire for you and who are a little bit crazy about you. You're going to have a lot more fun with that. Not crazy about you because they're toxic or they have personality disorders, but crazy about you because you're creating these amazing experiences for the both of you. And so that is my suggestion. But now you understand hopefully how genuine burning desire works. Some of you guys believe in some weird mythology that because she slept with you, that she had all this desire for you. Guess again, dude, not at all, okay? You may have just caught her at the right place, right time, and her sexual action threshold was lower. Take this information to heart, use it, apply it, and you know what? Ask questions, for God's sakes. I'm busy, but I make myself as available as I can in the comments below, on social media platforms where you can ask me something and I might have an answer for you, or I could do another video with an answer instead of making assumptions and saying stupid things on the internet or doing stupid things in your life with women because you don't understand what I'm telling you. Keep watching. Thanks again for the support.